mentioned, I think it's prudent and appropriate to be open to all of the above. What's available to you in the free agent market and the cost of acquiring it versus what's available to you in the draft. And excited about that challenge. Those of us that are competitors are.
Now that the Super Bowl is officially over, we've reached a brief period of time in the NFL where absolute roster mayhem is about to ensue. Last offseason, it was a little bit more quieter, but the offseason of 2022 was one of the most active we've seen in recent NFL history. The coaching hiring process this year was absolute mayhem, and it looks like it's going to be the same in regards to roster construction. And a team that is entering the fold for the very first time, a very long time, is none other than the Pittsburgh Steelers. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all of that out of the way, break! About 3 weeks ago, I was desperately looking for tickets to one of my favorite artists. John Summit was performing at BMO Stadium, and I had no way to see him. Luckily for me, I had the Game Time app. I was able to open up the Game Time app and secure 3 tickets for me and my friends so we could go ahead and see John Summit, which is why I'm so proud to be sponsored by Game Time, because they're the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out, and you can buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Not only that, but they're incredible at saving you money on tickets. They have deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute tickets. You can find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. So I really want to see Shane Gillis perform. He's coming to LA in May, and they even have tickets for me to see Shane Gillis, and they even show me what I could expect for the view if I decided to go with their cheapest tickets, which are $100 each. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use my promo code Mikerophone to get $20 off of your first purchase. And thank you, Game Time, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Ever since Ben Roethlisberger retired, the Pittsburgh Steelers had a huge question mark at the quarterback position. And to be fair, they kind of had a question mark at the quarterback position a few years before Ben Roethlisberger retired. Truly a legendary quarterback in his prime and one of the more successful quarterbacks in NFL history, but once he retired during the 2022 offseason, the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't really have a succession plan for him. They originally did have some form of a succession plan by keeping a bunch of developmental QBs on the roster, players like Mason Rudolph and the late Wayne Haskins before he passed away, but now the Pittsburgh Steelers had nobody to turn to. So in the 2022 NFL draft with their first round pick, they decided to select the best QB prospect available, Kenny Pickett. It was a really beautiful story because Kenny Pickett went to Pittsburgh for college, but at the same time, the 2022 NFL draft was one of the least exciting NFL drafts in terms of quarterback talent. I mean, at least in the first couple of rounds. Yes, Brock Purdy was selected with the final pick of that NFL draft. Nobody knew Brock Purdy was going to be the player that he is now. And the Pittsburgh Steelers had a solid draft. They brought in Kenny Pickett, they had George Pickens. The year before, they drafted Najee Harris. They selected Pat Freiermuth, and the plan was to obviously begin the succession plan to Kenny Pickett. In year 1, Kenny Pickett was decent. I mean, for a rookie, honestly, he wasn't really that great for a rookie. He finished 6th in Rookie of the Year ratings. He had a 63% completion percentage, 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and he added 3 touchdowns and 237 yards on the ground. A lot of people pointed the blame finger towards Matt Canada for the fact that Kenny Pickett wasn't successful. And in year 2, we would get an opportunity to see whether or not that was truly the case. Kenny Pickett would play under Matt Canada for a little bit less than the first half of the season. During a 7-game span under Matt Canada, Kenny Pickett had 1,033 yards passing, 147.6 yards per game, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Pickett had 6 touchdown passes all season long under Matt Canada, and that would eventually go for the duration of the season. And he would also throw 4 interceptions. He would barely hit over 2,000 passing yards in just first 12 games. And in week 13, Kenny Pickett would suffer a high ankle sprain. And this is one of those situations where it was probably the worst time to get injured, because when Mason Rudolph would fill the void for him, he wouldn't give the job back. And after seeing the success of Mason Rudolph, be it because he was playing underneath Mike Tomlin for 4 seasons, or maybe it's just Kenny Pickett isn't good enough, the Pittsburgh Steelers figured that they would be better off moving on from Kenny Pickett potentially altogether, or trying to make a huge change at the quarterback position. Now, I have to admit, one of the most impressive parts about the Pittsburgh Steelers is Mike Tomlin's record. This man somehow, some way is able to consistently put together winning records each and every season, no matter what happens with his roster. It's truly impressive, and I know some Steelers fans don't really care for it, but the fact that you have a head coach that could somehow win you games, even though the roster makeup has no business winning games, is definitely something that you could be optimistic about for the future. The problem is, in regards to talent on this team, the quarterback position might be lacking. Now, should the Steelers move on from Kenny Pickett altogether? I don't necessarily think that's their plan. He's still on a rookie scale contract. At the very worst, he could be a backup and maybe learn for a year or two before finding a new job somewhere else, or maybe continuing with the Steelers. You never really know. But all I could tell you is Kenny Pickett doesn't necessarily seem to be the answer for the Steelers under center, and the Steelers have some weapons on offense in order to get things going. George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, if they bring Deontay Johnson back, Pat Freiermuth, like I mentioned before, Jalen Warren. I want to say Najee Harris, but I'm not necessarily sure currently at this stage of his career. Maybe it was the offensive coordinator that screwed over Najee. But in any case, as a result of this, Adam Schefter came out and said that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be looking to make a huge move in the offseason in regards to their quarterback position. And the individual that they're targeting is one that's a pretty interesting one at that. Watch.
We know that Pittsburgh's going to go out and get some type of quarterback. Tomlin's a big fan of Justin Fields. We'll keep that in mind during the offseason in the coming weeks. But they're not just going to leave it as Kenny Pickett, his starting job. Mike Tomlin made that very clear.
Now, immediately upon hearing this information, we got some breaking news that the Pittsburgh Steelers were parting ways with Mitchell Trubisky. The side spoke to assess the situation, and Trubisky gets a fresh start just over a month ahead of the league year and free agency. I honestly am a firm believer that Mitchell Trubisky's family just paid off Mel Kiper before the 2017 NFL draft just to boost up his draft stock, because I remember that NFL draft, and this guy came out of nowhere after playing 13 games for North Carolina. And to his credit, for a guy that isn't that talented at quarterback, this man has had a great career. I mean, if you just look at the amount Trubisky has earned throughout his career for being truly mid at his job, it's very, very impressive. I mean, he's made $46 million throughout his career, and again, he's not good at quarterback. But in any case, why would the Pittsburgh Steelers do this? Well, they have Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett. They really don't need Mitchell Trubisky there anymore. Anytime they throw Trubisky in, it's like they're waving the white flag at this point in regards to the game that they're playing. But also, it could be to free up a spot for Justin Fields. Now, in any case, at this point, you know, the Chicago Bears have been throwing out smokescreen after smokescreen in regards to a potential trade for either Justin Fields or the #1 overall pick. And that's what I like to remind you guys throughout the entire offseason. There are times that I'm going to be telling you information and it could just be a smokescreen, and it's up to us to deduce it. But at least where we currently are at in regards to Justin Fields and Caleb Williams, we're hearing the fact that the Commanders are expected to explore the idea of trading up to the #1 overall pick per Mike Garofolo, and it would take a historic haul for the Bears to consider trading down from that spot. You're also seeing Justin Fields being connected to the Atlanta Falcons as a potential option, who also have a void at the QB position. And Ian Rappaport echoes the sentiment that the Bears will need a historic haul in order to move on from the #1 overall pick, which is exactly how the Chicago Bears should be playing this situation. Ryan Poles even said that we are going to turn every stone to make sure that we are going to make a sound decision for our organization. I did think Justin got better. I think he can lead this team, but at the same time, there is a unique situation. And while so far all the trade rumors are suggesting that teams would be more inclined to trade for for the #1 overall pick as opposed to Justin Fields, there are some benefits that come with trading for Justin Fields instead. For instance, Justin Fields isn't going to cost you an arm and a leg to move up to that spot. In the case of the Pittsburgh Steelers, targeting Caleb Williams is practically impossible because they have the #20 overall pick in the NFL draft, meaning they'll probably have to give up 4 or 5 first-round picks or something crazy to move up from #20 to #1, and that's just how it works. But they could potentially package that #20 overall pick or a 2025 first-round pick and send that over for Justin Fields, and the Chicago Bears would automatically say yes, because I don't think any other team would be that aggressive in trying to acquire Justin Fields, and the fact that you could say we're sending you a first-round pick would make all the difference. In this case, I think it would make a lot of difference for the Pittsburgh Steelers to pursue such a trade. According to Spotrac, they expect Justin Fields to get a 6-year, $283 million contract, which would pay him an average of $47 million a year, which is pretty much the same exact type of contract that Daniel Jones got for signing with the New York Giants. I know that's a huge number. For you and I, that's clearly a huge number. That's the amount that Mitchell Trubisky's made throughout his entire career. But when you compare it to the rest of the NFL, if you take a look at this gigantic table of the highest paid QBs in the NFL, you're essentially just paying him slightly more than Kyler Murray at that point. And this is before you see Dak Prescott get a contract extension or Tua Tagovailoa get a contract extension. So I think this could work out quite nicely for the Pittsburgh Steelers, as they would have a versatile dual threat QB that they could build around for the foreseeable future. His contract would be below market value, and he doesn't need to sign a contract for another 2 years. So you could essentially trade for Justin Fields, see whether or not he is the answer under center for the next 2 years, and if it doesn't work out, then you can move on from him as well. But that's not the only option that the Pittsburgh Steelers have. I think their other option is something that they're less inclined to go for, because this is what they've done during the 2022 NFL draft, and it didn't really work out for them so far. And plan B would be just to simply take a quarterback with the 20th overall pick. I'd assume that JJ McCarthy will be available for them at #20. Now, is it the splashiest pick? No, but if you go throughout history and graded quarterback prospects against each other, how often do you hit on a first-round pick QB? It's very rare. I mean, the only NFL draft I could think of having multiple successful first-round pick QBs is the 2020 NFL draft, with Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and Tua. And this could certainly be the case for this year's NFL draft as well, but I think all of the signs are there. I mean, the Steelers cut Mitchell Trubisky. They have a great offense and a promising defense. They're capable of winning games because of Mike Tomlin, and they have a huge hole at the QB position. Now, I don't want this to sound too crazy, but if you really think about it, it really isn't that crazy. We're talking about a team that finished 10-7 in a division that featured the Baltimore Ravens, Cleveland Browns, and the Cincinnati Bengals. This is the most competitive division in all of football. So the Pittsburgh Steelers definitely feel some pressure to do whatever it takes in order to be able to compete with the rest of the AFC North. Let me know in the comment section down below. Should they target Justin Fields? Would Justin Fields even move the needle for them? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.